Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games. And today we're going to be unboxing the first of the Federation expansions for Star Trek Away Missions, the Captain Picard Federation expansion. This is an interesting one because it's Captain Picard himself returning to the site of the Battle of Wolf 359 to establish peace between the squabbling factions and restore the primacy of the Federation in interstellar matters. Now, it's interesting because this would take place, I suppose, in the future, because in the core set of Star Trek Away Missions, Picard was actually Locutus of Borg. But here, you have Picard post-Borgification, post-Locutus, coming back to establish order. You have interesting characters here. You have Picard, you have Crusher, you have Deanna Troi, you have Wesley Crusher, and Geordi LaForge. So Star Trek Away Missions is also our competition game. So if you check the description box or the link that James could put somewhere here, you will see a link to our competition video, and by all means please do enter, because we have not only the core set but two of the expansions to give away to a lucky subscriber. So please do check that video out. But with no further ado, let's open this box and see what we have inside. So opening this box for the very first time, we are greeted with the minis, two sets of cards, and of course new battle sheets and new mission cards. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at the actual minis first. So this is the lovely Deanna Troi. So as you can see, she still has a fantastic figure, but she's actually wearing her Starfleet uniform as opposed to the classic counselor uniform that she had. So there was a specific episode where Picard was replaced by another captain, and the captain was a bit more formal, so he forced Troi to wear the actual Federation uniform, which was a kind of a blue, dark, black science medical officer type of thing. And I remember the actor Marina Sirtis was actually delighted because she was still a Starfleet officer at her core. So it was time for her to get her spacesuit, I believe, as she wanted it, and kind of look a bit more formal as a member of the crew rather than just kind of eye-totty with her low-cut kind of Counselor Deanna Troi uniform. But nevertheless, this is Counselor Troi. We have here Wesley Crusher, and I believe he too is also in the Ensign Starfleet uniform. I don't see a pip, but the models are of course good quality, and poor old Wesley got an awful time of it, but the actor himself is apparently a lovely person, but a very interesting character. And I remember when one of the things I liked about it was that William Shatner sometimes was known for throwing his weight around a little bit, and when he visited the set for the new series for the first time, Will Wheaton, his name of the actor, met William Shatner, and William Shatner wasn't too nice to him. He kind of spoke down to him a little bit, which shook poor old Will Wheaton's confidence, because he was a very young actor. Gene Roddenberry, God bless the man, got wind of it, came up to William Shatner and made him apologise to Will Wheaton. And I'm delighted for that, because it's a good character, and as a person, he seems to be a very, very decent man as well. But of course, he was in the TV series a child prodigy, so you see him here working on what I believe is this. I actually recognize this little model. There was, I think it was called The Naked Now. There was an episode where they all kind of got a little bit drunk, and Wesley's science project was kind of reversing gravity, and it actually looked like this type of thing. He was actually able to make a kind of a tractor beam from a school project, and he saved the day at the end of the episode because he just used the tractor beam in a bigger way, a repulsor ray, to kind of push another ship into an asteroid so they could get away. I won't go into the details of the episode, but I think that is what the actual model is based on. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments, but if I'm right, that is just really cool, and one of the reasons I love this game so much is that there's all this lovely little touches, because the people who've made this game are obviously fans of the TV series. We have here, of course, Geordie LaForge, and again, he looks epic. He has his toolkit here. He has the tricorder and he has the phaser, so he's good for action. He'll be an interesting little piece to paint, actually, because I've never painted a visor before, so I'm looking forward to trying that. There's a little bit of extra here, but you can kind of sand off little things like that. But otherwise, a very good quality sprue. We have here the gorgeous Gates McFadden, Beverly Crusher. Again, the dancing doctor, as she was known, because she was actually a dancer in real life. She had an awful lot of musical training. I believe she was the actor was away in season 2 because she was contracted to a musical. But yep, the lovely Beverly Crusher with her fantastic hair, out and about doing her medical thing. And of course, we have the big fella himself, Patrick Stewart, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, pointing the finger up, I'm sure, no doubt, wagging at fellas, stop and behave yourselves, because he is all about the diplomacy and, making peace. This is one of the reasons I kind of liked Picard over Kirk, is even though Kirk was a kind of a cowboy, and breaking the rules, Picard stood fast to the rules and the ideals of the Federation. And I don't know, I just kind of preferred him as a kind of an officer, even though he was a bit more strict than Kirk. He wasn't the most strict officer in the world. He was one that kind of really encouraged growth and the best of his people. So Picard was good because his crew was good. So let's have a look at the actual mission points here. So you have strong-willed. You score 50 points if you and your opponent have no cards left in their support deck at the end of the game. Now that's interesting. I like that because it just forces you to play cards. And you have open dialogue, and if you have 5 or more negotiation mission cards in your scoring area at the end of the game. So again, a very interesting a very interesting photo for them to have taken as well, because that's Picard on a Klingon ship, I think, drinking wine or something. And of course, strong-willed, of course, this is the very famous, there are 5 lights, there are 4 lights episode where Picard is tortured by the Cardassians. So again, definitely a lovely job done by the guys designing this, because they have the themes of the episodes brought in with the themes of the actual characters. So you have 2 new mission cards. So if I can just put this back in. We have here the actual stats. So we start off with the lovely Beverly Crusher. So she's an Dactyce +1 for her phaser. Take an action to discard 2 cards to remove a stun token. Okay, so the standard stuff. She's got command, medical, and science, and she's not the toughest, but she does have a good kind of command of skills. You have Geordie LaForge. Now he has the visor, so whenever he passes an engineering skill test with at least 2 successes, choose to either draw a support card or search the mission deck discard pile for a repair ship mission card. Now that is excellent. So Geordie is going to be very good in, especially for the Federation, doing what he has to do. And you have, of course, the little bit of lore here on the back, so it's good to see that Gale Force 9 are not wasting an inch of cardboard. You have the man himself, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, so he's command by 2 and diplomacy by 2. And of course, I didn't even notice it here, but Forge has engineering by 2. So they've doubled up the actual skills. And when he activates, search for a negotiation event card. And you can also make it so you take an action to move up to 2 friendly characters up to 2 spaces each. So he has something akin to Riker's orders there, and even again like Locutus. You have Deanna Troi, Mind Reader. When Troi activates, you may look at 2 random mission cards from your opponent's hand. Now again, that's another great way of shaking this little skirmish game up. So these are actually very powerful little characters. So you have the little bit of lore. And we have good old Wesley Crusher here. So he's a student. Take an action to search the support deck discard pile for an experiment card. So he has his own thing as well. And he's a human/traveler. Now I like that. Now I won't, well, I suppose I could spoil the TV show for people because it's been out about 20-30 years. But Wesley Crusher kind of evolves into a thing called a traveler. So the fact that they knew enough to add it here, again, is a nice little touch that the guys who've made this game are real proper fans of it, and it's good to see. He's also not the strongest attacker, but of course you have to remember, he's still just a very young man, and you have extra bonus points tokens here. So we also have 2 decks of cards, so let's open these up. So we have support cards here, and we have mission decks here. So let's have a quick look at the mission deck. So you have a new path. So of course this is Wesley Crusher. This was a very interesting episode because one of the first times we met Wesley Crusher was with this guy, kind of the Traveler. His job was bringing the Starship Enterprise to warp 9.5 or something. But Wesley Crusher noticed that he was doing extra bits. They kind of bonded, and the character realized that there was something special about Wesley Crusher. This was a very interesting part of Wesley Crusher's life, because the entire series he wanted to be a member of the Federation, or a member of Starfleet, excuse me. And he was the golden boy, bright-eyed student, brilliant pupil, but he got disillusioned. And the reason he got disillusioned is he was meant for greater things. And this is a great little episode where you kind of realize that he's above what's happening. He's meant for greater things, that he's meant to kind of join these guys and become the Travelers. And this little kind of chaos in the background was frozen in time, where the two of them had a chat, and he kind of convinces Wesley to come with him. So the child prodigy became kind of even better again. So it basically, anyway, sorry, I got so caught up in the lore and the actual episode, but it was a cool little path for Wesley Crusher to kind of trod, and it's great to see that the character went so beyond all the rest of them. But anyway, you score this card at the end of the game if Wesley Crusher's in play. You have the answer distress call. No, these guys are very funny. It was an episode where they kind of stole all their tech, and they're kind of dumb. So they got stranded. Geordi LaForge went down to kind of the Pakled is the name of the guys, and in Star Trek lower decks they're one of the main bad guys, and they're just brilliant. They're very funny, but they're thick. They're not very smart. They robbed Geordi LaForge, and the whole thing was trying to get Geordi LaForge back from the Pakled because they wanted him to fix everything. So it's kind of a meme now at this stage, but it's fun that you have the Pakled in with the Geordi LaForge pack. So you take a communication skill test at the command terminal on the bridge, and you score 10 points, and you score 5 bonus points for each additional success. So this is where where Picard will come in very good, because if he has command by 2, you can actually double up those points. You have the isolate pathogen. So take a science skill test at a terminal in the biology lab. So you see Data and Picard looking at something in particular. I'm not sure what it is. You have Picard's determination, of course, may only be played during Picard's activation. Take an opposed diplomacy skill test against a hostile commander. Add 1 die to the roll if Picard is adjacent to the hostile commander. If passed, score this card. And you take the Prime Directive. Score at the end of the game if you did not neutralize any hostile characters during the game. Now that's interesting. So if you play a pacifist role, you can kind of not have to do it. And this is an interesting episode as well, because I remember, I think they were kind of a faction that were infighting, and actually I remember it now. The Prime Directive episode. This is where Worf's brother found a species that were going to be wiped out by a volcano or something like that. So his brother pulled a fast one, beamed them all up to the holodeck, and pretended they were going on this big, long, epic journey to the new promised land. He broke all the Prime Directives, basically, because the Prime Directives, leave them be, let them be wiped out. But he pulled this big kind of narrative pull to say that they're going on a journey to the promised land so that these people could survive. Ethically, I guess, the right thing to do, but it brought an awful lot of interesting debates into the Prime Directive. This guy here in the back was someone who actually discovered that the holodeck was breaking down because it was on for so bloody long, and they had to debate whether they'd tell him, wipe his memory, or what to do. You have recrystallize dilithium, and I remember this was a lovely episode because they found James Doohan, Scotty, in kind of isolation, and it was great to see him and Geordi LaForge bond. So again, this is a lovely kind of image to add to the Geordi LaForge deck, but they had 2 very different engineering approaches. Kind of like Kirk and Picard. One was a cowboy and a rogue, and the other was crisp and efficient. So again, chalk and cheese that you had. Geordie LaForge was very precise, and James Doohan was kind of, give it for an extra 5 minutes, make yourself look good type of thing. Part of the charm of the character, of course, but it's nice that this is here. So the action is take a science skill test at a science lab at the science terminal in the science lab, and immediately take an engineering skill with a different character at an operations terminal in engineering. And if you pass both tests, you score 30 points. You have reroute main power, Geordie LaForge doing his thing, so you have to do a skill test in the main corridor. Restore the lab's database. Now, I remember this is a lovely episode as well. This was where Picard fell in love with this character. Lovely episode, actually, because it led to a conflict between duty and love, because she went on a kind of a mission and not everyone came back. And Picard's ability to be a commander was kind of compromised because, I won't spoil the ending, but his interest, obviously, in his people coming back is always professional and in some cases personal, but it was extra personal in the case of this officer. But anyway, take a science skill test at the science terminal in the science lab and take an engineering test in engineering. You score 30 points. You have sense intent. So this is obviously season 1 because you can see the little stripes, and is just Diana in her old kind of uniform. So take an opposed diplomacy skill test with a hostile character of your opponent's choice as the challenger. And roll an additional die if this character is an empath. If passed, score the card. And you have sense motive. So this is Diana Troy again doing her sensing thing. A very interesting little fact, actually, I remember, and I'm being a complete Star Trek nerd here, is when Denise Crosby and Marina Sirtis were initially cast, they were cast differently. Marina Sirtis was supposed to be security officer Tasha Yar, and Denise Crosby, who was Tasha Yar, was supposed to be Deanna Troi. I'm kind of glad it didn't work out that way because, they're both brilliant actors, but I couldn't imagine Denise Crosby in this role, and I couldn't imagine Marina Sirtis as Tasha Yar. Anyway, we have here the support decks. So you have the event Ceasefire, which is recover 1 damage for one of your characters, and each opponent may recover 1 damage from each of their characters. And this is a very interesting episode. There was a huge storyline in Deep Space Nine and towards the Next Generation, where it was the demilitarized zone, or where the Maquis kind of started resisting against the Cardassians. Especially as an Irishman, you can kind of appreciate post-colonialism. So there was great kind of aspects being dealt here, but here you have, it's a bit on the nose, but you have a Native American who, of course, his land is being stolen by the Cardassians, which are a great symbolism for imperialism or anything like that, and the Federation essentially betraying them by giving the lands to these people, to the Gardaes. A great episode, and it spun out into a great kind of subplot through both The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, and it was great that Star Trek The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine was able to tackle issues like post-colonialism in a kind of a digestible form. You have here Data, where play when you take or oppose a skill test, change one of your die results to 4. Shuffle this card into your support deck, or you can interrupt. So this was Data, I believe, when they went back in time to Tom. They went back in time to Mark Twain. I couldn't think of the actors or the writer, but I think when they went back in time to Mark Twain, I think that's where that episode is from. You have heated negotiations. So yeah, here's Picard with the finger pointing, wagging. Play before dice are rolled for an opposed skill test. Both players may discard any number of cards to roll that number of additional die. You have Hugh. Choose one of the following. Shuffle this card into your support deck. Your opponent must disregard the top card from their support deck, or interrupt, discard an opponent's subcommand event play that is in play. You have Joint Discovery. I remember this episode, actually. They found kind of golden breadcrumbs from, it was in, I think, one of the first series or second series, but they found kind of golden breadcrumbs that led to the foundation of all life. So basically there was species that existed before the Federation, before the Cardassians, before the Romulans, and before the Klingons, and they were all kind of tracing down their joint heritage, and they were very disappointed when the species that came before them just said play nice. There was no weapon or kind of massive power source or anything like that all the factions were after. It was just a kind of a nice goodwill message, and the play nice message was completely lost, and the only ones that kind of realised it in the end were the Federation. But an interesting episode. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing. Joint discovery, draw a mission card, and each opponent may draw a mission card. So, yes, that's nice. So basically, the theme suits the actual card power itself, that everyone gets to have a bit of a draw. So you have 2 of these. You have Loxana Troy, which is an event which is just brilliant. She was Gene Roddenberry's wife and Deanna Troy's mother, and was just utterly infatuated with Picard, and it made for great comedic relief. But choose one of the following. A friendly character of your choice gains the empath keyword and an additional die for all diplomacy skill tests until the end of this activation. Shuffle this card into your support deck. Or, interrupt, look at all the mission cards in your opponent's hand. You have Parlay, which is an interesting episode. I don't recognize this episode, but you draw 2 support cards, and each opponent may draw 2 support cards, and for each opponent that drew a support card, you may draw an additional support card. You have Picard's Challenge. Now, this was a great episode. Picard's heart exploded, and instead of floating up to St. Peter, he met Q, and Q said, I'll give you a chance to extend your life. And it all came back to a moment in Picard's past, which kind of made him the man he was. He picked a fight with some Norsicans and got an artificial heart, and what killed him was the artificial heart exploded. So Q, being Q, actually brought him back a little bit too far into the past, so he could try and avoid the fight, and it was great to see try and avoid the fight and kind of have his real heart, which I won't spoil the end of the episode for you, but Picard realizes that the brash and impetuous youth in his past made him the man he was today, and if he didn't make those choices, learn from those mistakes, he wouldn't have been the man he was, and he opted to kind of not change anything in the end. Excellent episode, actually, but you can tell because he's in the old Starfleet uniform. Anyway, Picard's Challenge, which is may only be played during Picard's activation. Choose 3 cards from your mission and support decks, discard piles. Your opponent looks at them and selects 1 to return to your hand, and you discard the other 2. You have the Quick Retort. Now, I don't recognize this episode, but you can see that the red alert is on. Play when a hostile character ends a move action in the line of sight of a friendly Federation character. Take a diplomacy skill test with the hostile character as the challenger, and if passed, the hostile character player must discard a support card. You have Reginald Barclay. Choose one of the following. A friendly character of your choice gains an additional die for all engineering skill tests until the end of the activation. Or, if you interrupt, you search your support deck, discard pile for an equipment card. You have Deanna Troy, Sensing Things Again, Sensing Danger. So play before the opponent rolls dice when making an attack action against your empath character. You have Sense Emotions. So play when a hostile character ends a move action in line of sight of your empath character. You have Worf, God bless him. Choose one of the following. A friendly character of your choice gains an additional die for all computer and security skill tests until the end of the activation. Shuffle this card into your support deck. And you have some equipment. So you've got the engineering kit, which you can see is what Geordi is carrying, where you can roll 1 additional die when the character takes an engineering skill test. You have the hypo spray, which is, of course, in the core set. You have the interphasic scanner. So, I remember this episode. They all discovered that there was these mouth bug things eating them. It was quite creepy. Troy had one on her arm, and I think he had one on his neck. But they had to try and find a way to get rid of them because they were kind of draining them all. They were like leeches. Roll 1 additional die when this character takes a medical skill or science test. You have the medikit. So, interesting kind of medikit. You have the portable tractor beam. Yeah, I knew it was the thing that Wesley Crusher had. So, this was the actual portable tractor beam that you can see from the episode. Now, obviously, he's in uniform here, so he obviously kept the whole thing, but it's you look at the top 2 support cards, place 1 in hand and the other in the bottom of the support deck, and you have, of course, the classic tricorder, which play 1 additional die when this character takes a science or security skill test. Now, that was the advanced deck. We have here the actual starter deck, so I'm just going to open these. I'm just going to back up a little bit. And we have here the starter deck, and we have the mission deck and the support card. So we'll have a quick look through these as well. So you have arbitration, where you take an opposed diplomacy skill test in a terminal on the bridge with a hostile character of your opponent's choice as the challenger. If you rolled 2 or more successes, score this card. Now, I actually remember this episode. This is the pilot episode, Encounter at Farpoint, where Q just kind of nabs a load of people off the bridge and puts humanity effectively on trial. You can see poor old Denise Crosby here in the background as Tasha Yar, and Deanna Troi in her short mini skirt. So yeah, it was definitely the pilot episode because they hadn't finalized all the changes. So you have 2 of the arbitrations. You have the Baryon sweep, which is take a science skill test at a science terminal in science lab while having a character at any other operations terminal. If passed, score this card. I remember this was an epic episode. It was basically Picard does Die Hard. He went back onto the ship to get his saddle, and the engineering crew that had been put up there were actually guys who were going to rob the thing, and there was a kind of a radioactive baryon sweep going through the whole ship. So Picard was a badass. He actually kind of knocked them all out, and right up to the last moment, the baryon sweep was close to killing him. But yeah, it was essentially Star Trek Die Hard in space. Brilliant episode. You have convert field density, so you've taken an engineering skill test at the operations center in the transporter room, 2 of them. You have the emergency evacuation. Yep, I remember now. This is actually the episode where Worf's brother was trying to rescue all these aliens, and this was the poor guy who kind of discovered it. So take a security skill test at the command terminal in the crew quarters. Immediately take a command skill test with a different character at any other command terminal, and if you pass both tests, you score 30 points. You have the intensive negotiation. Again, this is from the McKee episode, where they're trying to discuss post-colonial rights for the Native American colony. I don't know if it was Chakotay's colony from Star Trek Voyager, but it was certainly the basis of it. Basis of that character's background and the McKee doing their thing. So you take an opposed diplomacy skill test in the command terminal on the bridge with a hostile character of your opponent's choice as the challenger, and if you roll 2 or more successes, score the card, which is 15 points. And you have Live Together in Peace, and this is a very famous scene. I remember Ferengi stole Lwaxana Troi and Deanna Troi, and Picard had to pretend to be a sporned, jealous lover to try and bully the Ferengi into giving her back. So he was spouting Shakespeare at the Ferengi to prove his love to Lwaxana Troi. It was a very fun episode, but of course Patrick Stewart has a Shakespearean background, so he was able to go completely OTT and power the words out. Like, it was a fun episode. Anyway, I'm fanboying here, but it's Live Together in Peace, so interrupt score at the end of the round if no friendly or hostile characters other than Borg drones were neutralized this round. And you have mutual interests. Now, this was an epic story with Geordi LaForge and the Romulan, but play before your opponent rolls dice when their non-Borg character takes a skill test in the mission card. The opponent may choose to discard a card to make you discard this card. If they do not, they roll 2 additional skill die and you score this card. So a very good episode to actually do the mutual interests on, because what happened is they beamed down to Geordi beamed down to a planet where very bad weather, met up with a Romulan, and obviously the 2 of them were enemies, but they had to work together to kind of survive. I believe Geordi's sight went and this guy's legs didn't work, so the 2 of them physically had to help each other. But it was actually an excellent little episode. But again, you can tell it's a fan that kind of designed these cards and selected the episodes and the images for these cards. You have Pacify. Play before your opponent rolls dice for an attack action against a friendly character. The opponent may choose to cancel that attack action, forfeiting the action. If they do not cancel the attack action, you score this card. If they cancel the attack action, you score this card. So you have 2 Pacifies. You have the position of strength. So again, this is the episode where you have Geordi LaForge. Obviously, your man getting Tomalak, I think his name was, gets his man back, but take diplomacy skill test at the command terminal on the bridge. If you roll 2 or more successes, score this card. So a 10-point victory card. You have 2 of them. You have prepare nanites. So take a science skill test at a medical terminal in the sick bay while having a character at a science terminal in engineering. I remember this episode. This guy was trying to there was some black hole event or something, but he was a bit of a jerk. But there was some problem with the science. I think maybe it was sentient life in the machines he was using, and they wanted to kind of stop the experiment to suss out whether the nanites or the things like that were actually living beings. But yeah, interesting episode. But anyway, it takes 9 nights. So you take a science skill test at a medical terminal in sick bay while having a character at the science terminal engineering, and you score 20 victory points. You have sense intent. You have sense motive, sense need. So you draw one mission card. And third party arbitration, where you have challenge all unopposed skill tests on an opponent's mission card with one of your characters as a command terminal. Score this card if your opponent fails a skill test. And your opponent may discard 2 cards to cancel this card. So again, this is Picard at the Klingon High Council, and I believe it was. This is, I think, an image from maybe the House of Juras storyline, where the Klingon Civil War nearly boiled out into the Federation, and the Federation had to kind of take not too subtle steps to kind of calm things down, but pretty cool as well. So we have here the support deck. So again, we have the ceasefire, which is an event card. You have Chief O'Brien, good old Irishman. Choose one of the following: search for an equipment or transporter event card. Shuffle this card into your support deck at the end of this activation, or place a friendly character in any empty space. So Chief O'Brien, beam you wherever you gotta be. You have mediation. So we have here a Klingon, and we have a Cardassian, and we have Picard talking between the two of them. I think that's probably regarding that that episode where they were all looking for a joint piece of the puzzle in their genetic makeup, where they were looking for the species that were before them. So you discard a card from your hand, and each opponent must discard 2 cards from their hands. You have mind over matter. So again, this is when Wesley was discovering the Traveller. So when they were kind of doing their new warp experimental drives, you could see the Traveller was fading in and out of reality, and he discovered the same gift in Wesley. But play before the opponent rolls dice when taking an attack action against your character. Roll an additional defense die. You have the event parlay cards. You have Picard's challenge, which we've already seen. We have Picard's compromise. So again, this is Hugh, where you may only be played during Picard's activation. Take an opposed diplomacy skill test. Pick a hostile character that is in line of sight to challenge it, and if passed, move the hostile character up to 2 spaces. The opponent may then discard a card to move one of your characters up to 2 spaces. So it's interesting, especially with the diplomacy aspect, that they use Hugh as the character for Picard's diplomacy powers. You have the event Quick Retort. You have the Risky Negotiation, which I remember this was a kind of a mad Aztec episode where Picard had to wear and pretend to be a sun god or something like that. But play during an attack action targeting your character. Remove 1 attack die, and the opponent attacking you may then discard 2 cards to remove 1 defense die. You have self-sacrifice. So this, again, is the episode where Q sent Picard back to the moment where he got stabbed in the heart by Norsigans. And sure, you can kind of see the penultimate choice of the episode here, so I might as well spoil it for you. But he decided to not get stabbed in the heart. Went back, was a much lower rank, was kind of a man who never took risks, hated what he became. So went back to Q, said, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to be the man I am. So he says, right, go back and, pick your fight, get stabbed in the heart, and, learn from the experience. So it's a cool little kind of card to have, self-sacrifice. Play when a friendly character takes damage during an attack action, and apply all of the damage to one of your Federation characters adjacent to that character. Oh, interesting. Interesting power card, and an interesting kind of image to apply to it. But a very good episode because, I like it personally because, every man learns from his mistakes, and, if to be a man in life, you have to kind of, take a stand, and Picard took a stand against some bullies and obviously paid for it, but the end of the episode, of course, was a happy ending. His heart somehow got fixed, or Q decided to take pity on him. You have the Traveller, so choose one of the following. Search your support deck for a Traveller event card. Shuffle this card into your support deck, or interrupt. Place any number of mission cards from your hand on the bottom of your mission deck and draw that number of mission cards. You have Picard's Intuition. So I can actually see here that he's wearing the... Picard for one season had this really cool kind of red suede jacket and a grey uniform. I don't know why they didn't stick with it. It looked pretty cool, but he had a kind of a polo neck thing on around his neck, but may only be played during Picard's activation. Play this card on the table. At the start of each command activation, they may discard any 2 cards from their hands to return any 1 card from either of the discard piles to the top of that deck. You have the Plasmodine Relay. Set up to 3 support cards from your hand aside, then draw that number of support cards. Place the cards that you step inside the top of your support deck in any order. You have the Static Warp Bubble. So again, this is from the episode of The Traveller, where you can only be played by Wesley Crusher, of course, so it's quite thematic. And at the start of each character's activation, their player must place a card from their hand on the bottom of the deck. If the player is unable to do this, shuffle this card into your support deck. And Space, Time and Thought, again, you have the Traveller and Wesley Crusher doing their thing. You may look at the top card of your support deck and mission decks at any time. You have the Captain's Log, may only be played on your commander. Earl Grey Tea, of course, has to be equipped for Picard. Discard this card to recover 1 damage or reroll all die for a skill test or attack action. And, of course, the Hypo Spray. So, a very interesting little bundle for Star Trek Away missions with Picard, Wesley Crusher, Deanna Troi, Beverly Crusher, and Geordie LaForge. So a very fun, easy little deck to kind of fold into your decks. It has some new powers such as diplomacy and empathy, and quite frankly, a very good price. It was a steal at only €20 from my friendly local game store. So that's everything in the Star Trek Away Missions Picard Federation expansion. And again, if you enjoy these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, and please do check out our competition below in the comments section or the description section. You'll see the link there, and enter it to be in with a chance to win your very own copy of Star Trek Away Missions and 2 of its expansions. So until next time, this is Sean. Good luck, God bless, stay safe, and make it so.